available car in Northern Virginia. And I drove for 9.5 hours coming down here all by myself. And I had no trouble at all except for a minor, shall we say, interruption on I-85 in North Carolina, but I won't go into that. But it is a great place to be with you, and I want to thank the Governor for his kind comments. Georgia is sort of a second home to me. I was stationed here as a young lieutenant in 1958. I was an instructor at Fort Benning in 1967, and it means a lot to me. And then I commanded as a 4-star general at Fort McPherson, Georgia, which is just a few miles west of here, is the headquarters of our Forces Command. And as the Governor mentioned, it's a lot better to command Fort McPherson as a 4-star general than to go through Fort Benning as a second lieutenant. It's good to be a general, I'm telling you. And so it's a great place to be with you, and the real reason I'm so delighted to be with you is because of the importance of the work that you're involved in and the work that you do. Energy is what keeps not just the United States, it's what keeps the world going. And what I see, and I'll cover this in the course of my remarks, is that the demand for energy is getting greater and greater and greater. And all of the chatter and talk about, well, who has the best ideas with respect to energy? Is it the Republicans, Democrats? Is it alternative energy sources, or is it just fossil-based fuels? And the answer is we need it all. We need it all because look at what's happening in the world. When I was chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff or National Security Advisor to President Reagan, and you'd visit Europe, you go to the city of Prague, or any city in Eastern and Central Europe that had just come out of the Cold War, Warsaw Pact, the streets were empty. There were 13th century streets that had been designed for 13th century transportation. And that's pretty much what you saw. When you went to Moscow, you could go up and down the streets with no traffic whatsoever. When I went to Beijing for the first time 41 years ago, it was the simplest thing in the world to walk down the main street because there was nothing but bicycles. Now look, I want a BMW. I want a Mercedes. I want what I see Americans have, what Western Europeans have. I want all of these wonderful things. I want television. I want cars. I want motorcycles. I want everything that everyone else has that I see on YouTube and on television. And what does that all take? It takes energy. And the more people come up out of poverty into the middle class, the more energy will be required to sustain their needs. And as I'll cover in a minute, it's all linked together. The beauty of our world is that more people are living under democracy now than ever before. More nations are democratically led than ever before. More people understand that wealth creation is the most important political force in the world today. It's not wars, it's wealth creation. And with wealth creation, you raise the demands of the people coming up out of poverty. And those demands usually involve some additional industrialization of their economies and their societies. And above all, it means more and more things being plugged in or driven. And that means demand will continue to go up. Conservation, we gotta have it. We gotta have it, but it will not satisfy the demand needs that are out there. And so as I hope to cover in the course of my presentation, we have to look at everything. There's a slogan that's been around since I've been around, independence, energy independence. Everybody promises it. I've seen 5 presidents in a row say, we're going to be energy independent. But the world is moving too fast, so independence doesn't mean we don't need anything from anybody else. It means we have more now than we ever had before. But it's an integrated energy system throughout the world. And no one country can essentially say, I'm out of here, the rest of you don't count. It's a fungible product, energy, especially fossil-based energy. And so what you do, and the engineering work you do, and the way you're looking at the world, is so vital, not only to the success of America in the future and the success of our economy, but also for the success of the world. Because with your work and with the efficiencies you are trying to put in the system and the costs that you are trying to bring down, you're going to be helping the whole world have access to energy, and they all want it. And so congratulations on coming together to talk about this, even in the difficulties of weather and transportation. And I hope you have a good time, and I'm so glad to be a part of this. But I have to be honest, I have to be very, very candid, that at this time of my life, at this time of my career, I'm just glad to be anywhere. Ain't easy. Even though I've been out of government for a few years, I still think about it late at night. I still think about those days when everybody was calling me. Every king, every president, every prime minister was calling. Come see us, come see us. Can we come see you? Think about those days when every reporter, every television commentator wanted to interview me, wanted to talk to me. You gotta remember, you're sitting there one day and you're the #1 diplomat of the whole free world. You're sitting there and you're the Secretary of State of the United States of America. The next day you ain't. It's over. It's kind of ugly the way they do it. Condi got sworn in, and 20 minutes later they pulled my phones out. All the bodyguards got in cars and drove away. So you guys know. No longer in danger, your problem. There you are, sit. And you have to do something with your life. You go through a transition in life, a transformation from being up here down here. But I'd been through something like this before because I was chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the #1 military position in the whole armed forces of the United States, the most powerful armed force on the face of the earth. And then suddenly I was just a retired GI. And so I knew what you go through when you go from those heights to those lows. And so this time when I left the Secretary of State position, I was kind of ready for the transformation. And I knew that the transformation process begins at home. So, first morning after leaving the State Department, sitting at the kitchen table with my beloved wife, Alma, my wife of 50 years. And we were sitting there, and we're enjoying our coffee, and I look across the table at her lovingly, and I said, darling, this is the first day of the rest of our lives. I won't be getting up at 5:30 in the morning anymore. I won't be leaving at 6:30 in the morning anymore. She froze. And I heard her mumble under her breath, oh my God. This fool isn't leaving at 5:30 in the morning or 6:30 in the morning anymore. Doesn't he know how we stayed married for? So I realized that was not going to be a sustainable situation. I had to get out of the house. That wasn't going to work. But before I even could think of what to do next with my life, I had to deal with an emotional problem because when you come from those heights down to those lows, it's kind of depressive. You have this sinking feeling coming over you. And you have an emotional and an intellectual gap inside of you. You got to fill it, or else it can be very, very debilitating, very depressive. So I gave it a lot of thought. What shall I do? What shall I do? Then I had a perfect solution, and it worked perfectly. I bought a Corvette. I'm telling you, if there's anybody in this room over 70 years old and having any kind of difficulties, get you a Corvette. Don't talk to your doctor, just go get a Corvette. Now, the police in Northern Virginia are not that happy with my solution. And I discovered yesterday the police in North Carolina are also not that happy. But that's okay. That's okay. But up in Northern Virginia where I live, there are 5 police jurisdictions around my neighborhood. Park Police, Fairfax, they're all there. And they all know me. So as soon as they spot me doing the slightest thing out of order, they radio each other. Whose turn is it? Go get him. And so they'll stop me on the parkway and they'll pull me over. The only problem is they're all ex-GIs. So they pull me over and they come up to the car and they stop and salute. And then they give me a ticket. I can't have a light pouring in my eyes, so you'll have to turn that off. Thank you. Excuse me, I didn't put lights. I can't see when someone's pointing on. Yesterday was a little different. I don't have a Corvette. I just got a Malibu because I had to rent it. But suddenly I discovered in my side view mirror there's this white car following me in the blind spot. He won't go away. And then suddenly a little red light appears on the windshield. I don't know what it is, but I figured you better pull over. So as I'm pulling over, then all the lights come on. And they've been following me, which means they looked at the license plate and they know it's a rent-a-car. And then they went to the paper in the rent-a-car and they know it's me driving. So they pulled me over anyway. I haven't done anything. So they pulled me over, and one guy comes to the right side of the car. I lower the window and I smile at him. Hi, sir, how are you? I'm Colin Powell. Yeah. The other guy comes to the other side of the window, I lower the window. And I said, how are you guys today? We're fine. How are you, sir? You doing okay? Yeah. Good. I said, do you want to see my license? No, just want to say hello. Bye. Sometimes it's good, really good to be a general. In any event, people say to me, well, look, you're making a lot of fun with this retirement stuff, but are you really retired? The answer is no, gosh. I'm working as hard now as I probably have ever worked, but it's a different kind of work. I keep in touch with politics, I keep in touch with foreign affairs and military matters and what's going on in society and in the Washington scene. But I spend most of my time away from Washington, visiting wonderful audiences such as we have here this morning on the speaking circuit. And it isn't just a matter of me speaking, it's what I learned. What I learned by going through all of your materials for the last couple of weeks, knowing what it is you're here to do and the kind of sessions that you are having. And so I find the speaking business as educational for me as it perhaps is somewhat educational for you. And the real thing I like about the speaking circuit is that every audience is different all over the country, and I learn about different geographical parts of our country and different associations and different industries that are hard at work. And what I find everywhere I go are people who are concerned. You're concerned about the country. You're concerned about our economy, the unemployment rate, concerned about the foreign entanglements that we are in. But at the same time, what I also see is a level of confidence and optimism in every audience. Still believe that we can overcome, as we always have. Still believe. And it is that confidence and optimism that I pick up everywhere that really, really fuels me, keeps me going. I only wish I could bottle up what I see out in the countryside, take it back to Washington, D.C., pour it over the heads of our politicians and tell them, you guys better get going. These people are getting mad. They are really getting mad. We're having an election next Tuesday, if the storm has not affected that in any way. I don't think it has. And we'll make a choice. Whatever your choice is, I want to warn you that neither one of them is Superman. Two decent men I know well who will do their very, very best as they see their very, very best. And that's what makes this country so great, that we can choose between these two gentlemen. But don't think that either one of them can come back into office or go into office, snap a finger, and it's all going to work. We have a political situation now that is more polarized, more dysfunctional than I have ever seen in my many, many years in public life. They seem to have lost the ability to compromise for the good of the nation. They're stuck on the right, they're stuck on the left, and they stay there. And with the internet and cable channels and all the other media techniques we have now, people watching tend to only watch those programs and listen to those radio commentators and go to those websites that reinforce their view. And their reinforced view gets reinforced day after day after day, and they no longer tend to see the other side of an issue. Same thing happens on the left. You can watch Fox on the right, MSNBC on the left. You know what you're going to get. You're going to get your views reinforced. But I still remember when I was coming up, when there weren't all this news exposure to us. You would see an Eric Severide in the evening or Walter Cronkite, and they'd tell you everything you needed to know. And they heard both sides of the story. We've got to do something about it because it's really hurting us as a nation and hurting our whole political system. I always harken back to the founding fathers, how they were able to compromise. They were in a room in Philadelphia in the summer of 1787 for several months, and they argued with each other. These were men of strong views, intellectually bright men, and they argued. But they knew that they were there not just to argue, but to find common ground somewhere in the argument. And look what they compromised on. This is what a Senate should look like, a House, the powers of the President, the power of the Congress, and the power of the military. What authority should the military have? What's the Supreme Court look like? What does the court system look like? They compromised on all of these things, and they compromised on the most difficult issue imaginable at the time, slavery. What do we do about it? Strong views. They couldn't solve it. In fact, they put something in the Constitution that, upon reflection, is quite horrible. like person of servitude is only worth 3/5 of the vote in a House of Representatives that they couldn't vote in anyway. Pretty terrible, but it was a compromise. And the reason we did it, they told us afterwards, we were not there to solve this horrible problem of slavery. That would take another 200 years. We were here to create a constitution, create a nation, and create a system that would allow us ultimately to deal with that problem. Just imagine the challenges they had. And I keep saying to myself, if men like that could do that 230 years ago and create a nation like this, you mean to tell me we've got a Congress now that can't even pass a single appropriations bill? It's a disgrace. And they'll keep doing it until we, the people, not two supermen, until we, the people, tell them we're fed up with it and we're not going to vote for you anymore unless you show us that you're a person who can listen, argue, and compromise to gain a consensus to keep this country moving forward. And if we, the people, don't do that, we, America, are going to be in trouble. So it's up to us to make sure you get the right thing. That's why I like the speaking circuit. But I have other interests. I'm now a venture capitalist. I'm a limited partner at a great company called Kleiner Perkins, Caulfield and Byers in Silicon Valley. In case you forgot, these are the people who brought you Google, Amazon, Netscape, and so many other wonderful technologies that are reshaping the world. My principal interest is in energy and in information systems. And information systems because it's information that's reshaping the world. It's the internet, developed by the Army, I might add, or the military, that is reshaping the world, allowing everybody in the world to see what everybody else in the world is seeing, breaking down political boundaries, breaking down cultural, geographic, language, all sorts of barriers so that the world can be connected, giving the world the ability to move information, knowledge, capital, risk, opportunity around the world at the speed of light. And so I enjoy being out with my partners to see what's coming next. What's coming next? What's coming after the smartphone? Is it going to be the flat tablet that's all this like that? What's coming next? I think the solution, the next great breakthrough, which is already here, but we don't know it yet, is the Easy Pass. Think about it. Oh, you're laughing at me. Think about it. What other device do you have that is instantaneous, without any friction whatsoever, that automatically takes the money out of one account that you have and replenishes it when it goes below a level from another account that you have given them? DMV in Virginia has access to my American Express card, and anytime my DMV account goes a little low, DMV account goes a little low, I never see it. It's frictionless, it's instantaneous, it's transparent. I go hit the Jersey Turnpike at 75 miles an hour under that bar, and like that, they got me. Either for the price or for a ticket, their choice. But just imagine, suppose you had that and you could go into any store. Or parking meter. We are becoming more and more a frictionless, instantaneous, transactional-based society. When I became Secretary of State, I discovered we still had Wang computers in our offices. Wang computers, my God. So I bought 44,000 computers and brought the whole department, every embassy, every consular office, up to internet standards. And then I gave them the hardware, the software, and then I changed the brainware. It doesn't work until you change the brainware. It was simple. I started emailing everybody in the department, and they all went crazy. Oh my God, did you get an email from the secretary? No. Oh shucks. You know, the ones that don't get it hurt more than the ones that do get it. And so you have to change the philosophy, and we changed it from a calendar philosophy of doing things by weeks, months, and quarters to a transactional philosophy. We do something every time our system captures a new bit of information that we need to respond to. The whole system gets it, and we get it in a way that we know how to use it. And so I'm just delighted to be with a company that is in the forefront of this kind of technology. Because I was born analog, analog. I'm desperately trying to become digital. But my grandchildren are a real problem, because these little devils were born hardwired digital, and they make me crazy. The two youngest, 5 and 7, were going somewhere with their aunt in New York. So Auntie Linda put them in the back of her car, strapped them in, and all that stuff you have to strap kids in with now. And she starts to drive away. The two kids start screaming and crying. Auntie Linda, stop, stop, stop. So she pulled, what's more? What's wrong? What's going on? What's wrong? Auntie Linda, You didn't turn on the GPS, we don't know where we're going. One of the kids in the building they live in, Mama bought a brand new 50-inch flat screen TV, put it up on the wall, went in the other room. The little 6-year-old kid started crying, Mommy, Mommy, it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Mommy runs in, and the kid was up there going like this, thinking it was an iPad. It's just a matter of time before all remote controls go in the same drawer that you have your 8-track cassettes in. We're all going to a finger-based iPad world. Look at the new Microsoft stuff coming out. And so it's wonderful to be a part of that. The real trouble I'm having with social sites, my 17-year-old grandson, he's the smart one, really smart. He's at the University of Texas Austin, learning more about computers. And so I say to him one day, Brian, honey, what's wrong? You don't answer my emails anymore, Brian. You don't even answer phone calls. Oh, Poppy, dear Poppy, you don't understand. We don't do emails anymore. And we don't do telephone calls. What do we do, Brian? Poppy, we text. And we tweet. Brian, what's a tweet? It comes from Twitter. What do they call it, a twit? I don't understand nothing. Don't worry, Poppy, we're going to get you a Twitter account. I don't want one. You want to talk to your grandchildren, you better get one. Okay. And we're going to get you a Facebook page. No, I'm too old to need a social network site. Where was it when I was 20 years old and I could use this thing? Right? So 3 days later, he says to me, Poppy, guess what? You already have a Facebook page. Somebody pretended they were you and they put one up. It's got your picture, your bio, pictures of the kids, everything. Somebody pretended they were me? Yeah. You can't do that in this country. It's against the law. It's against all privacy rights that I have. I'm not going to put up with it. I've had it. I've gone as far as I want to go down the digital road. Call my lawyers. I'm going to sue this kid Zuckerberg. He's still got some money left. And I want myself back. And he said, but Poppy, you already have 30,000 fans. Oh. Why didn't you say so? And it turned out to be one of the most useful things I have in my office. Because my office consists of 3 offices, my home office, and I have 2 offices, one for the Speakers Bureau, and a personal office. I never go there anymore. I can do everything electronically from home. And Facebook has really helped a lot, particularly with the promotion of my new book. And then just to show you the power of this stuff. When Alma and I celebrated our 50th anniversary in August, unbeknownst to me, she took our wedding picture cutting the cake and gave it to the Washington Post to put in the social, back there with the obituaries and other stuff. She paid $200 to do it. If she told me that, I'd have killed her. And she was going to put it in the New York Times, but that cost $2,000. I would have killed her. And so it appears on a Saturday morning in the Washington Post, seen by whoever looks at the social section and notices in the Washington Post on Saturday morning. On Monday, my assistant, Peggy, takes a little picture with the caption and puts it on the Facebook page. Up it goes. 7 days later, we have had 8,000 comments, 80,000 likes, and 2.2 million views, all in about a week. So, hey, I'm no jerk. We have our wedding anniversary party, and our friends make a cake identical to the cake we were cutting 50 years ago. They take another picture, I put it right next to the first picture and put it up on my Facebook page, and we picked up another 1.5 million views. So we're at about 3.5 million views now. Life is good. The other thing I'm doing out there with my company is I'm on the board of one of our investment companies we've invested in by the name of Bloom Energy. Bloom Energy is run by just a genius of a man named K.R. Sridhar. And at one point he was looking to make energy systems for a Voyage to Mars program for NASA. And that didn't pan out, so he took what he knew and the technology he had, took it to Silicon Valley. And I first met him about 6, 7 years ago when it was nothing but a garage and a few wires and some fancy stuff. But it was a unique kind of solid oxide fuel cell, and I was interested in it. And then after a couple of years of watching it develop, time to form a board, and I went on the board of Bloom Energy. And so I want to show you how the technology is changing, as if you guys ain't the experts in the room. But I just want to show you one other way of looking at it. that may be a little different from what most of you are doing in this world. Can I have the slides, please? Just a couple. Now, what you see is what we call a balloon box. And if you look at the one Caltech, that one box produces 100 kilowatts of electricity. It takes natural gas in one end. It'll also take biomass. It'll take just about anything that, will burn. And it goes inside that box and comes out the other end, 100 kilowatts of electricity. You want 200 kilowatts, put 2 boxes. And so it started out just as sort of one of these startups, really, really basic startup. The beauty of it is that, for example, you see the ones that are outside the back of the eBay headquarters. I've been there, and I was walking across the lawn to get a sense of its signature. And I was about 10 feet away before I finally heard it humming. Almost no noise to speak of. And if you can see, it's almost completely sealed because there are no real exhaust coming out of it. So extremely clean and very, very unnoisy. And it's very, very reliable. The reliability rate is well into the high 90s now. These are early versions of it. We're already into Mod 2. We're working on Mod 3. But here's the point I want to make. Not so much that we're selling these. We're selling these now out of our factory in Silicon Valley, but more importantly, we're building a factory in Delaware. And we'll start to produce these by the thousands. AT&T has just ordered a bunch. Microsoft has ordered a bunch. We've got lots of customers now. We have to scale the whole thing up. The technology is sophisticated. It requires some exotic materials, but we're working to secure our supply. But here's what we really want to do. We want to keep making these smaller and smaller and more efficient. We believe that this can do for the world what cell phones have done for the world. Cell phones decentralized phone communications. This can decentralize electrical generation. The installations you see here, and look at that's a big Walmart store, they're off the grid. The grid is the backup. This is not a backup generator. This is the primary source of power for these facilities, and they keep the grid around just in case. But it really is running well over the efficiency of the grid in terms of electrical production, and the reliability is well into 98, 99%. And we're getting the cost down. You can imagine the first ones are expensive, the cost is being driven down. Our goal, and everybody should have a goal that goes beyond how many do you make and what the shareholder value is and this, that, and the other. Our goal really is to reach a point where it is so small and the technology is so perfected that we can take it to a distant village somewhere, a place that had never had power, and using biomass, material they do have, and for the first time bringing electricity, not from wires from a power station, but electricity to your village. And with electricity, you have lights. With electricity, you can cook.